Hello, this is Catherine Dubberly, the Answer Lady. I'm a big fan of Kiss Looms. I greatly enjoy mine, and I am cooperating with Kelly at Kiss Looms to make you a playlist of all the basic techniques that you might ever want to know on all of the looms. So welcome and enjoy.
Let's do a chain stitched provisional cast on a Kiss loom. It would work pretty much the same on any Kiss loom that you have, but what I'm working on is the Kiss small gauge that's either 3 or 4 washers in there. We're going to begin with a loop knotted into the yarn as usual, and we're going to put that on our latch tool or crochet tool. I prefer the latch tool, as you probably already know. Now, we're going to make the crocheted cast on, and it's the same as it always is. You make sure you go around the peg, lift the yarn behind the pin so as to crochet around the next peg. It's pretty important to do this loosely, or it's going to make things hard on you when you try to do the next thing. There we go. Found my eyes looking straight at the camera and not at the work somehow. I need longer eye stalks like some bugs. That would help. Have a look down in there. Every peg has a stitch going around it, but there is no yarn of this burgundy yarn in front of any pin. Let's finish casting on 10 or 12 stitches. Like that. As I'm sure you know, if you don't get this done right, your yarn will hang up on the pegs as you knit, and the knitting won't come down, and it'll be a mess. We always use contrasting colored yarn for the provisional cast on, so as to make it easy to do the other steps that we want to do. And make sure that you get complete chain stitches, no yarn caught on itself the way that stitch is trying to do, because when I need to pull it out, that would make it difficult. There we go, that's free. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's do one more. I'll have to rescue the one that just popped off in a moment. I'm going to pull the last one through and rescue the miscreant. That's the cast on, and it will not be part of the project. It's just going to hold on to the main yarn for a little bit while we work. Now I'm going to begin U-stitching with the main color of yarn. In this case, gray yarn is the main color. I do not need an initial loop because there's already a stitch, although it is in the waste yarn, on the peg. It's important that this first row in particular not be overly tight, because I'm going to need to hang the stitches of this first row back on the loom very likely. But let's talk about some other reasons that we might wish to do the provisional cast on. It's possible that we want to knit ribbing at both ends of the project, but we want both to end in a bind off. So I could rehang it, knit ribbing, and bind off on both the initial end and the final end by doing this. I might like to work crochet stitches into the live knit stitches. I might just not want to decide how I want to finish the project right now, and know that I can hedge my bets by using the provisional cast on. So it's used when you want to deal with your first end at the end of the project for whatever reason. And we're just going to normally knit the remainder of the project. I'll knit a few rows and then bind off, and we'll get back together and you can see what we would do next. Here's a little note of caution for you. It should not be a problem because I pulled my yarn tail through, and you should too. and then we'll pull it back through when we want to release it. If for some reason our cast on row comes out before we're ready, okay, there's my cast on accidentally coming out. Do you see what this is leaving? This is leaving the live stitches that are not secured, and your project would go ahead and unravel all the way up. So you don't want that. Make sure your provisional cast on stays in place. This piece of knitting was cast on with this provisional chain stitched cast on, which is normally done because you want to keep your options open and maybe do something different later. And that different thing could simply be that you want both ends to have a bind off so that they match. It's often difficult to find the perfect cast on to match a bind off, and this is a solution. So what I'm going to do is turn this piece of knitting purl side facing us the way it normally would be, and hang the stitches, that is the first row of main yarn stitches, back on the loom, and then get those provisional cast on out. And as you saw, I find it easiest to start in the middle of the row, not at one end. There's no rule about that. Just do what works best for you. That's what works best for me. Always use a contrasting color for your provisional cast on because it makes it very easy to locate the stitch you need to hang. And there should be one more in there. There it is. Now, whatever I do with this knitting from henceforth, it will be facing the same direction, purl side towards me, as it usually would be. When I cast on, I took note that the longer tail was over here, and I pulled that tail through the last of the chain stitches. So now if I pull it back through, in theory, I should be able to unravel those chain stitches. And voila, it worked. Now it's as though they never were, and we have live stitches ready to be worked however I want. Pretty neat, huh?